Hello, BookTube. How are you doing today? That's swell. I'm super happy for you. Today, I'm going to be doing a book tag, the Josh's Scholars book tag. This, I believe, was created by Josh from Literary Gladiators. He tagged the restricted section, who tagged me, and I thank all of you. That's super awesome. It's good to get tagged because, like, there's times when I'm feeling a bit weird and down, or like been super busy, and I don't like making a video. Either isn't the first thing on my mind, or I have a couple different video ideas and I can't decide which one to do, and then I just spend the day doing other stuff while trying to figure out which one to do, and then I don't do either of them. So this was good. This was good. I needed to do this today. So, um, let's get crack-a-lackin', huh? Oh, you didn't? Okay, I'm sorry. I'll try to have better jokes next time. Okay. So, first one here. Which lesser known writer do you feel people need to read and study? This is so broad, and especially because um, I typically read um, older stuff, or more pulpy stuff, or more genre fiction. It is really hard to. Um, it's not hard to answer this, it's hard to come up with one. Because most of the people I talk about, I'm going to guess 98% of the people who watch my channel have either not read or don't know. So, a quick answer, I guess, would be, I guess I could just pull it down. I made all these stacks of books, and then just as I read that question, I'm like, oh, you know what? So, like, for instance, Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut is a book that a lot of people have to read in school. I had to read this in school. Um, it's great, but it I get bummed out that that's the only Vonnegut that people teach in school. Like, actually, that's not the question. The question is, oh my gosh. Oh wait, no, read and study. Well, whether it's in school or at your house, Breakfast of Champions, I think, is one of the best books ever written, and it's one of my favorites. Um, I don't know. I just feel like I know why other Vonnegut books aren't taught in school, and it's because, especially for the time they were written, they were kind of racy in the sense that, I don't know, he draws. Well, here's a example. He's talking about the Nazis, and so he draws a Nazi flag. Now watch, I get pinged by YouTube. Unbelievable. Yeah, it's just, it's not that it's like racy. It's that it's, I think some of the humor would get lost on people who aren't expecting it. And Slaughterhouse-Five wasn't really that humorous of a book. There were some funny things that happened, but anyway. So beyond that, the answer I was gonna say before I sat down was John Fonte. John Fonte is just amazing, and the Bandini Quartet, as they're called, are great, and I think everybody should read them, especially Ask the Dust. This is probably his most famous work, and I use the term famous very loosely. It's about a Italian guy coming to LA to become a writer, and he falls in love with this Mexican waitress, but because it's like the 20s, like late 20s, um, he, or early 30s, it's like in there somewhere, um, he doesn't want to fall in love with her because she's Mexican, and he's got problems with that, and he wants to be just like a wealthy white dude, and she's calling him all sorts of dirty Italian names, kind of thing. I don't know. Like, that's a horrible way to sell this book, but I feel like that is the way to sell this book to the people who watch BookTube. If you understand what I'm saying. Like, books about race and class seem to do well here. So if I just told you this is a book about a aspiring writer who falls in love, there's a shit movie, don't watch it, with Colin Farrell, I think, and Selma Hayek. They just took all of the meat out of this and just did the love story, and then completely changed it on top of it. So anyway, so there's that. But if you look at these books, and this is going to be a really fucking long video, I'm sorry. If you look at these books like a series, that's actually the third book. Wait Until Spring Bandini is about Arturo Bandini as a child. It's like Bandini's very autobiographical for Fonte. But because I think he wrote this book first and couldn't get it published, he wrote Ask the Dust, that got published. Then this got published. And then he wrote Road to Los Angeles, which would be the second book, I think, in between writing Wait Until Spring Bandini and Ask the Dust. But because Wait Until Spring never got published, he didn't feel like he needed to follow a lot of the things set up in there. And it's just funny because he probably never thought these 4 books would come out. Windows open, fly in the house. Annoying. So yeah, so it's really interesting to read it. And then Dreams from Bunker Hill is the last one in the series. But it's I guess for me, being a writer and a creator, reading books that are fictionalized tales of writers is really like inspiring to me, I guess. And I know that people still do it. It's not something that was stuck in the last 80 years or whatever. Okay, so next question. Fuck, that was a really long answer. Which well-known writer do you feel garners too much attention? Overrated or studied too much, if there's such a thing? Well, obviously, I'm going to say Stephen King. And it's not because Stephen King is a bad writer. There are times when he's bad, and there's times when he's not. He's written really good books. But they're few and far between, I think, with the other stuff he's done. And I've said it once and I'll say it again, he's a paper salesman. Like, his job is to sell a giant stack of paper. 1,000 pages if it's possible. And yeah, so that's that. Other than that, I think lately, and this is going to be a very unpopular opinion, and I'm not trying to alienate myself or anything like that, but people who are garnering attention and acclaim because of their gender or their sex or their race or whatever. Anybody who is getting stuff, like when someone's talking about someone, so let's just say we're talking about John Fonte, for instance, and I were to just go, oh, um, John Fonte is a Italian American who is vertically challenged and has diabetes. He's had amputations, and oh yeah, he wrote a book. Like you could tell when you're reading a review of somebody's work or an article or an interview, and the fact that they're an author is like the last fucking thing they mention. If there's a laundry list of shit that precedes the fact that they wrote a book, their book is probably gonna be shit. And everyone's banking on the fact of being woke and all that other fucking shit. So, oh my god. Whew. So yeah, that's one thing that I really want to. I don't know. I'm not going to change the world by doing BookTube. It would be a nice thing, but I ain't going to do it. Let's see. A writer whose work who you believe will be in the canon by 2050. I'm assuming they mean modern because honestly, the only things I could think of are Shakespeare and the Bible. I think everyone has a very short attention span and it's only going to get worse. And unless you are churning stuff out like a crazy person, I think you will fall by the wayside rather quickly. It would be nice to think that there's stuff out right now that will be, but I don't know. I mean, there's always going to be like those literary scholars or college professors or whatever who are going to like hang like some sort of trophy on somebody and really, really, really push them over the next 15 to 20 years until they retire, maybe 30. And hopefully their students will do likewise. It really just depends on what's in school curriculum. Curriculum. Wow, that was a hard one to say with a dry mouth. A writer from your area, state, or country that you believe deserves more recognition. This is also kind of tricky because there's a lot of writers that I really, really like who at one point did have a lot of recognition, but kind of don't right now, or not, or that are just not widely read. So this one is aha. Okay, so for instance, this guy was born in England, but he spent his adult years in Southern California, in LA particular, and created a genre, even though there were a few others before him that actually created it. He was the one who I feel put it on the map. And that would be Raymond Chandler. He pretty much created the stereotypical hard-boiled detective, and you could tell he was a poet. It's funny because Sue said that about somebody on her video, on the restricted section video, and I already forgot who it was. Sorry, but he's so lyrical, and his similes are off the chain. There's just like you could just open a book and just be like taken away by how amazing his writing is. So, Lady in the Lake is my favorite, and it's about where I live right now, whereas most of the other stuff takes place in Los Angeles. But The Big Sleep and The Long Goodbye are his probably most famous works. Um, and they're all great. So, there's that. Everyone start reading Raymond Chandler again, damn it. Let's see. Uh, a deceased writer you felt should have won a Nobel Prize in Literature. And then number 6 is a living writer you feel should win a Nobel Prize in Literature. Well, literary prizes, to me, prizes in general, um, I think every second that goes by lose meaning, and it basically just become like the prizes. How do I say this without like the Nobel Prize? Okay, like the way it's set up right now, like my dog might be able to win the Nobel Prize in Literature. Um, this back scratcher with the zombie hand, this might win the Man Booker this year. You never know. Is it a book? Depends on how you look at it. Um, and that's the kind of mentality that surrounds book prizes right now. And I'm not going to say every book prize, but the ones that are big enough for everyone to know about, kind of thing. When people do and go out of their way to upturn the apple cart, to like make a point, the point is that you lost sight of what the fuck you're supposed to be doing. And that's, I mean, there's no way around it, really. There's not. I don't know. So, to answer those questions, I'm not gonna, because I don't think they're important any longer. Let's see. A writer who you feel needs a complete anthology. Now, this one took me a minute. Where the hell did I put those? Oh. This right here, I'm going to have two answers for this. One's Charles Bukowski. These are the Henry Chinansky novels that he wrote. And these are not set up in publication date. They're set up chronologically, with Pulp not being a Chinansky novel, but he is mentioned in it. And Pulp, I think people give this book a lot of shit, and I think this book is amazing. Anyway, now the Chinansky stuff's fine, and again, a lot of his poetry has Chinansky in it, but this isn't what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is his poetry, like Love is a Dog from Hell. And the reason why is because he would write 2 to 5 poems a night once he started writing, and he didn't start writing until he was like 40 something. Like writing like seriously. And he would get super drunk and just start clanking the typewriter, and then he would just shove these poems into envelopes and mail them. Sometimes he was still drunk when he mailed them. A lot of times he never got them back. A lot of times he never heard anything from people. A lot of times he ended up getting a lot of praise for it, and we know those poems today in one of the many gajillion books he's got. He also wrote a lot of chapbooks. So there's a plethora of stuff of his out there that no one will ever see because they're either lost in the mail, before he was anybody. No one really gave a shit to read it or keep it. So, like, there's a good possibility that the stuff of Bukowski's that we have now is like 20% of what he actually wrote. That's fucking staggering. And, like, if there was an anthology that I would want to have, it would be all of the stuff that he mailed out to people and never heard back from and never had another copy of. So that would just be unbelievable. Another thing, I don't have it close. I'm going to say H.P. Lovecraft, and there's going to be like 80 people going, you stupid fuck. There's like a million anthologies of H.P. Lovecraft. Hold on, my friends. This is what I'm getting at. I want a 3-volume set, okay? The first set, I want just his early shit, his gothic horror stuff, his stuff that was inspired by Poe and Lord Dunsany and stuff like that, okay? That. Then I want his dream cycle, all of the weird otherworldly stuff. And if there was, if this was annotated, like the new annotated Lovecraft, which is great, by the way, that would be awesome too. And then finally, the Cthulhu mythos. That would be amazing. You know what? You could even put a 4th book in there of just the stuff he co-wrote with people or wrote for people, kind of thing. That would be fine too. If you want to go a step further, get every single like Cthulhu mythos pastiche and put that together in a set. Like, I would like gold plate that shit, and that would be like, oh. And then his letters. Oh my god, that would be awesome. And then the 6th book would be his letters. Oh my god. Okay. Like, oh. So we have, what do we have? We have Gothic Horror, Dream Cycle, Cthulhu Mythos, co-written or pen-named or whatever, pastiches, and his letters. Oh my god. That would be like Encyclopedia Britannica levels of... Oh, I would have to put a new shelf on my bookcase just for those. That would be awesome. Whew, man. Patent pending on all of that, what do you call it, public domain work. Let's see. A translated work you feel deserves recognition. That is going to be Hunger by Knut Hamsun. I have no idea if that's how you say that name. But this book was so good. Like, and I just think it spoke to me. I don't know if anyone else reading this would have the same emotional reaction to it. But, just a dude struggling who doesn't want to be like everybody else, who doesn't want to fall in that same trap, who wants stuff so bad but constantly makes excuses up for it. It's just phenomenal. This is okay. So like Notes from Underground by Dostoevsky. This is another book on the same lines as that, but this one I feel does get recognition and does get read. And if it's not just this book, his other work does get read. Sartre. Nausea, like, this is the book that I feel like Nausea wanted to be, in a different way. So, like, this book... The premise was amazing. You guys have heard me talk about this before, but the execution was shit. This nailed it. Nailed it. And dude, this, not to be weird, but this Penguin edition is so, it feels so good in your hands, man. Jesus. This was such a pleasure to read. I might just read it again because it feels good in my hands. Okay, next question. Jesus, this is getting ridiculous. I've tried to really like haul ass, and I think we're doing okay now. A work of nonfiction you feel needs to be studied. Ah, here it is. I had a Bukowski on top of him. So here's my thing. What I would really like to see is literature being used for entertainment, for the joy of reading, for the joy of someone telling you a story. I don't want to fucking hear, and I know I use foul language, and a lot of people say, including my wife. Wait, what side are you on? That sometimes when people throw words in like that, it's because they're uneducated, and it makes you, as in me, sound like I'm picking a fight. And I'm not trying to. I just like, sometimes I just get like so upset that my brain starts racing, so I just have to throw in like us or fucking or something like that. Not a very good excuse. I I just don't want to be preached at. I don't want to be pandered to. I don't want an author telling a story to be the one to make me think. If you have to like be sucked into someone else's world for 8 hours of um brainwashing is not the right word, but just like, I don't know, I just want to be entertained, you know? I want to be entertained. So, nonfiction books that have to do with literature, at least in the way I see it, the two most important books I've read, nonfiction wise, in a long time are Paperback Confidential and Paperbacks from Hell. This is about the crime writers of the paperback era. So basically, it starts off with when the pulps died and the cheap paperbacks came out. This is possibly like the next big boom in paperbacks, which was the 80s horror cycle. It was a huge boom. But I think those are just perfect little capsules. Paperback Confidential goes all the way up until like the 60s and 70s. So you have a pretty good smorgasbord of stuff there. Another word I probably said wrong. So that would be great. Now, if you could teach any 5 literature-based classes, whether they exist in some form or you create it, what would they be? Ho ho! Are you kidding me? Yeah, this would be a coup for me. First off, I would want to do a creative writing class slash history class about Carter Brown, one of my favorite authors ever. He's my spirit animal. This is just one of the many, 1, 2, 3, 4 stacks of his stuff that I have, and that was the one that fit in my hand. But he would write sometimes up to 4 novels in a month, and also short stories along with that, in order to keep all of his publishing contracts in good standing. He's an Australian writer who wrote a bunch of different kinds of like crime fiction, mainly whether it's a police procedural, a detective story. He had a lot of reoccurring characters. It's just the the formula to be able to produce that kind of output, um, mind boggles. I would love to teach a class about that. That would be awesome. I'd probably have to drop the F bombs though. Um, I would like to do a history of paperbacks, meaning like from, it could go one of two ways, like from when the written word began to be put out for people to read, for the general public to read. So I mean that could go back to like 17 and 1800s pamphlets and stuff like that. Um, and then also like the history of the pulps. So like go into um, penny dreadfuls and like dime novels and the pulps, and then obviously the paperback boom with paperback originals. That was a huge movement. And I would also, and so that's like two classes there, I guess. And I would also, I think it would be interesting in doing those two. I think doing a history of ebooks would also be interesting, just because of that being such a big thing now, and also it having so many correlations with what happened when the paperback originals popped. So that would be really interesting, at least for me. Also, a couple other things. Raymond Chandler has a essay called "The Simple Art of Murder," where he basically explains, in his opinion, the hard-boiled detective slash crime genre and what works and what doesn't and stuff like that. And doing an entire semester based on that essay would be redonkulous. Like that would be pretty fucking awesome. And there's so much stuff I would want to do or take. If someone else taught this class, that would be fine too. But mainly like a literature as entertainment class, like a class in studying how we are entertained, and not like what did we learn from that experience, um, or like what social commentaries have been made in this book. Like, who gives a shit? That was awesome. Like, just give me one fucking avenue in life where I could just not give a shit about all of that stuff, whether it's like society or people's fucking feelings. That sounds awful, I know. But for fuck's sake, man, give me one fucking thing. And if I have to read books from fucking 60 to 70 years ago, just where I feel like people weren't stifling people, that would be amazing. And it's so funny. I was just talking to Zoe about this the other day. Bukowski said in an interview, like in the early 80s, that publishers are stifling people, stifling writers so much that in 20 or 30 years, you're going to have to go to Africa to be able to find somebody who's actually writing with heart and from the gut about what's real and shit like that. And it's so fucking funny because that's exactly what fucking happened. And that's not how it's said, but that's what fucking happened, you know? And I just really fucking, I just want some escapism. I want to be entertained. I want to have a good time. All the people, I'm going to make a challenge to you guys right now. If you are one of the many people on BookTube who is constantly talking about representation in books, problematic books and problematic authors, and all this other fucking shit, and you're talking all of this stuff on BookTube, and you don't know who your city councilmen are, you don't know who your congressmen are, you don't know who the fucking mayor of your town is, you're a fucking idiot. Stop fucking pandering to fucking people on BookTube. And if you really fucking care about these issues, if any of the issues that you talk about all the time on BookTube are something that you really truly care about, fucking do something about it where you live, and then it grows. You can't fucking, like, change what happens in fucking Florida and California. Okay? Like, yeah, you can make a video and, like, people can like it and share it and, oh my god, maybe it'll go viral, you know? But if you want actual change, start where you are and build out. That's how fucking shit happens. And all these people who fucking hate Trump or hated Hillary or whatever, and were the biggest mouthpieces you could get, talking about all these social issues or talking about all these economic issues, saying everything they could, but don't know who runs their own town where they live, who passes the bills where they're at that actually affect them on a daily basis, are fucking idiots. And that was a rant, and maybe I shouldn't have done it, but I did. I love you guys as much as I just was like very upset and jazz hands you. Let me know what you think down below. Ask me some questions. Let me know if you'd like to take those classes, like that one where I just did a rant and attacked everyone for no reason. Oh, sorry, I didn't attack anybody. I disagreed with them. Or gave an opposing thought. So, until next time, everybody, hugs and kisses from me to you, and I'll see you soon.